may we be blessed with growing compassion. May for all of us, may our stubbornness subside. May it go down the mountain and our compassion come up and rise to the top of our personal mountains.
So this week's Torah portion, Tisah, when you count the people. So in a few weeks, I think we'll probably speak about the first part of the parsha, which has to do with the half shekel, which is very interesting in and of itself. In any event, the major storyline of this week's portion is called the Chet Egel Hazahav, or the Chet HaEgel, the sin of the constructing of the golden calf. Yep. And that's what we're going to be diving into today with the Chernovitz over here with the Ber Mayim Chaim. Moses comes down with the 10 Commandments. We know all about it. We saw the movie. But then he goes back up to heaven to receive the sapphire tablets, and he learning, being taught by God Almighty himself, the concepts of the entire Torah. And he's going to come down 40 days later with the very heavy sapphire tablets. The problem arises. They became very confused and very anxious.
There's a legal term for that. It's called temporary insanity.
Temporary insanity, so to speak. And they ended up demanding from Moses' brother Aaron, that they needed a leader. Now, remember, these people had been brought up in a land of idolatry. This is what they knew about. They were still thinking as an idol worshiper might think. So they demanded the construction of an idol. Let's just skip to that. And Aharon tried to stall them, push them off. And in the end, he had to they donated gold. He threw it into fire. There were some magicians over there. And out came a living creature of a golden calf, which they worshiped. Now, when Moses is informed about that, that's what we're going to get into.
That's right.
Right now. The Ber Mayim Chaim is going to deep dive into one particular aspect of this.
Sure.
And let's get into that right now.
Right. And I think where he's going is, I think what you're really clarifying for us is the intensity of the moment of Moses, of this happening, and God telling Moses, they're not so they lost it there. They're not following. They're not following the instructions that they have agreed to, which is not to worship other gods or idols and all that.
Just a few months after the Exodus, after the Passover story, one thing goes a little bit in a direction which they weren't expecting, and they lose their minds, and they're back to square one, and they've betrayed.
Yeah.
And the fallout from that is tremendous, as we'll see right now.
Right. And also, as you said, it's interesting. I wonder if there was a slip of the tongue. You said that Moses went up to heaven. Literally, Moses goes up to the top of Mount Sinai. But I think, but he's meeting God. So, the Midrash, but literally the text says Moses goes up to the top of Mount Sinai. You say Moses goes up to heaven. But the beauty is that, imagine Moses in heaven. It's like who wouldn't want to be in heaven? It's sort of like you're at the top of the the great adventure, the top of the greatest roller coaster, right? It's like you said, the world is at your fingertips, right? So, and at the greatest moment, he's in heaven, right?
Yeah.
Then this thing crashes on him, and so we'll get into that. That's a really good backdrop for where we're going. So if you want to follow the source sheet in Hebrew, that the source sheet is on the website. You can go to the homepage, and then you click on where it says Jewish Resources, and then you go down to Pasha Videos, and the source sheet for this lesson, for this video lesson, is right here, and these are the psukim that we're going to read, and then this is a commentary in Hebrew. We don't have, so if you don't need to, if you just want to listen to the lesson, we're going to read the Hebrew and translate as we go. I want to recommend that you go to the website for the other programs and resources that we at Hebrew Learning Circles offer. For example, the simple, meaningful Bar and Bat Mitzvah program, the Hebrew School at Home program, adult education, and our Jewish Resources Center, where you can find this video and other resources. I also want to invite you to come join us every Wednesday at 9 a.m. To join this lesson live through meetup.com. And the group is called Weekly Parsha and Chassidut Spirituality Online. So if you go to meetup.com, you can join this live and then join the discussion afterwards. So this is what the meetup.com page looks like. So you go into the page, and then you can join the link, the Zoom link through the meetup.com, and then participate in the discussion. If you haven't yet, subscribe to our channel, Hebrew Learning Circles channel on YouTube. Like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's jump into the learning. So the particular verse that the Be'er Mayim Chaim is referring to, or the verses, and I'm going to read them. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lech red ki shichet amcha asher eleta me'eretz Mitzrayim. And God spoke to Moses, hurry down, for your people whom you brought out of the land of Egypt have acted basely. And then that's verse 7 in chapter 32, I believe. Yeah. And then verse 8 is Saru Maher min haderech asher tzivitam, asu lahem egel, etc. So God continues, they have quick to turn aside from the way that I enjoined upon them. They have made themselves a molten calf, a golden calf, and bowed low to it and sacrificed to it, saying, this is our God, etc. And the next verse, verse 9, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe raiti et ha'am hazeh b'nei am kshei oref hu. Further, God said to Moses, I see that this is a stiff-necked people, and the Be'er Mayim Chaim, as you'll see, is going to ask the question, why does God say again, why does it say again, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe? Why does it say again, God spoke to Moses? They're in the middle of a conversation, right? Why does it have to say it? It just have to say, and God said. And there's a lesson in there for us, and we'll get to commentary in a moment. And then the verse 10 says, V'ata hanicha li vaychar api bahem v'achale v'aseh otam otcha legoy gadol. It's a fascinating verse. Now let me be, God says to Moses. God says to Moses, let me be. What's Moses not letting? How can Moses not let God be? So Be'er Mayim Chaim talks about that my anger may blaze forth against them, and that I may destroy them and make of you a great nation. Look what a deal God is offering Moshe, right? It's amazing. He says, I'll destroy them, and from you we'll start anew. We'll start a new people. Can you imagine what's going through Moses' mind at this time? What an opportunity. Hey, I'll be a new Abraham, It's like, we obviously we do know. I'll be a spoiler here. We know that Moses does not take the deal. So, and let's jump into the commentary here. So, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe. This is a Ber Mayim Chaim is now quoting from the verse, from verse 9. And God said to Moses, I saw that this people are transgressing, etc. And on its face, this is superfluous. These words are not needed. The words, and God says to Moses, since up to now, God has been talking to Moses. Why does the Torah repeat again, and God spoke to Moses in the middle of this speech? The Torah should have only said just straight what God is saying. I have seen this people, that they are sinning, etc. כי באמת מגערתו של הקדוש ברוך הוא במה שדיבר אליו. And but indeed, it's true that God's rebuke of Moses is in the fact that he spoke to him sternly. Elav kashot, diber elav kashot, strong, hard words. And what are those hard words? Lech red, go down. So now he's interpreted, what does it mean, go down? Literally, it means you need to go back down to the camp. Your time up here is, you're needed down there, right? So that's literally. But the Ber Mayim Chaim is going to bring the Chazal, the sages from the Gemara. How do they read that? What does that mean? So he says, Tashash kocho shel Moshe, k'ma'amar Chazal. Moses' strength, stamina left him, as the sages teach, and this is in the Gemara in Brachot Lamed Bet. והוא מורה באמת על הירידה ממקום שעמד בה. And this truly points to a descent, a going down from a place where he stood, שלא עצר כוח עוד לעמוד במקום גבוה ונורא, that he had no more strength to stand in such a high and elevated and awesome place where he had been standing. And God's, first of all, literally, it's high up at the top of Mount Sinai, but also it's high up in the sense of facing God. That's the highest level. Go ahead.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack in just the setup, but this is, Rashi brings this, the commentator Rashi, the premier commentator of the Torah, Rashi brings this, Chazal, but he adds a few words which plays into what I think is the lech rei, the going down. He says, Loi nasati lecha gedula ela bishvilam. In other words, he's like it's like a master teacher, the sensei, as a particular student. There's always one student, who's the best student and rises way, but he's like and he becomes the right-hand man of the teacher, of the grand professor, And then the great professor will tell his right-hand man, this younger, the mentor will say, okay, now I want you to take these people because I'm going to be on sabbatical, or I'm going to be watching from behind the scenes. I want you to be the guy responsible for bringing my teachings to the world, so to speak. You see this in different aspects of life. And Then the guy does that and he's successful for a time, but now he's met with a great failure.
Mm-hmm.
And the professor is sternly repudiates
Yeah.
his a prime student.
Right.
Now the student is deflated.
Right.
And the message is that why did I make you my right hand man? I made you not for you, for all the other thousands of Talmidim, of students and people who I want to follow in my ways or have the knowledge that I have.
Right.
You failed in that. So that's a stern lecture, and that deflates the ego, so to speak, of that right-hand man. So that's what I think, in my view, is what's happening, is what the Ber Chaim is trying to say over here. And that's the Vayadaber, the word that is stern speaking, is first the Lech Rei. I mean, at first, why is that stern?
And that God gives Moses this high level, but he gives Moses the high level for the purpose of guiding the people. But if the people are not following, so Moses doesn't deserve the high level, right? Moses lost the reason for having his level.
Right, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah,
and right, so he loses his, he deflates. He basically this lech red means you step down from your. We're seeing the Olympics now, right? You think you're the gold medalist. You think you're up there. No, you step down. You're back to the ranks. So anyway, that's a great metaphor. So that's a lech red. It's not only go down physically, but it's also go down spiritually from the high level you were.
Right. And now in the second part, which we're going to begin now, the Va'amru, or the Vayemer, the soft speaking,
right?
We'll see how that plays in, and because that's the answer to the original question, we'll find out why now. But the answer was why 2 times, and God said, and God said.
That's right.
The first that God spoke was a stern speaking, and the second he shifts into a more compassionate God.
Okay, we already read that, and this shows that he descends from the high spiritual level that he was in, because he had no more strength or force to be in that high level, that high spiritual level. And he was pushed downwards. Because he lost his stamina to be at that higher level. And it's possible that the sages also meant this when they said descend from your greatness. That he had came down from this high place, the lofty place that he was in. And here it brings another Gemara where it shows that Moses was at such a high level that that God would prefer to be with Moses face to face than to be with the angels. There's a Gemara where the angels are looking, they want to sing to God, and God is not there, and they say, "Where is God?" "Oh, God is busy with Moses." So that's a little bit. He brings that as a to illustrate that Moses was even considered in God's eyes, or in that state, even above the level of angels, but no longer. Right? This is a descent. He's illustrating the descent here. And Yosef Abachutzmi Datchan. He says, additionally, he brings another teaching from the sages in the Midrash, where they say that God will not do anything without consulting with Moses first. Yeah, go ahead.
No. This is the beginning. Va'amnam, however, is the beginning of explaining the soft speech.
Right. So So he's starting the setup for that. And just to bring a little bit of the midrash, it talks about how Avraham Avinu, we have a precedent for this, that that God wants to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, but God is not going to do that without first but telling Avram that this is going to happen. So it shows Avram's great standing. And I think what the Beramayim Chaim here is saying is Moshe was at that same level. In fact, you can see that because God says to Moshe, let me make you an Avram. We'll start a whole new lineage from you, right? So in other words, he's comparing Moshe to Avram. That Moshe is at that place where God is not going to do anything without telling Moshe first. Because why does God have to tell Moshe, I'm going to destroy them? I'm going to destroy these people. God doesn't have to say that. God can just destroy them. And then, okay, Moshe, we're starting a new breed, a new covenant with you. But no, he's saying God is telling Moshe first. And that is why God could not first destroy the people because of the sin without letting Moshe first know that first. Because it says in the Midrash, God is already committed, that the fact that Moshe is in that high level means that God will not do anything without letting Moshe know. There's an interesting, though, juxtaposition. On one hand, God says, red, to lech red, right? On one hand, you're expelled from this high position. On the other hand, God has a commitment to him and says, well, but you will know what's about to happen. And there's a little bit of in my mind, there's a little bit of a contradiction there.
Yeah, but according to what we said before, based on the Gemara and the Rashi, it makes sense to a certain extent. It's like if we continue with that metaphor of the teacher, of the sensei. So after the lecture, so then the teacher steps and says, all right, this is what's happened. Now, let me explain to you how we're going to be moving forward to fix this. Mm-hmm. Right, bringing him into the process.
You would say God is both rejecting but also embracing at the same time. So now he's explaining. That is why the Torah says, and God spoke to Moses. Amira Raka. This is a softer approach to Moses. God changes from being rebuking and being hard to now approaching Moses with leniency and with compassion. This shows us God's compassion, that God does not want to do it without Moses' awareness. It's only from a distance. Right, so this is God distancing from Moshe in order to rebuke, but then that shifts, and God is committed to that. In essence, in principle, God is committed to that relationship with Moshe. And verse 10 now is where it gets interesting. This is where the shift happens. V'ata hanichali. And this is where the language in verse 10 is ambiguous, because God says, Moses, leave me alone now. Like God is under Moses' grip, you would think, right? Meaning that God is asking Moses, do not pray to me anymore so much, Mishum vaycharapi, because I'm planning on being angry, והנה כל המפרשים ראו חן ותמהו, and all, says the Be'er Mayim Chaim, all the commentaries look at this and wondered, why does God say, באומרו ויחר אפי לשון עתיד? Why does God say, I will be angry? We know God is already angry. This happened. God is angry. But God says, I will be angry in the future. And the commentaries are saying, how come? How come God is saying to Moses, I will be angry when I am already angry? As if up till now God was not angry. ואיך ירצה אלוהינו יתברך בכיוון להיות יחרי אפו? And how would God, our blessed God, intend to be angry later? And even God himself, and here they again bring Gemara, it's an amazing Gemara, where it says, God himself or herself is praying על זה בכל יום, every day, תמיד יהיה רצון שיכבשו רחמי על כעסי. This is a Gemara where it shows us that God also prays. And what's God's prayer? May my compassion overtake my anger, according to the sages. God is like a parent that needs to punish, and but can't really, because it's a compassionate parent that has to rebuke the child, but really doesn't want to. And that's the picture I'm getting, you know, and it's telling the child, saying, Moses, don't make it hard for me. It's hard enough to rebuke you. Don't make it any harder. I need to do this. So and the end is that this is a test for Moshe. I mean, Moshe can say, sure, go ahead and destroy everybody, and let's start a lineage with me. And Moshe is saying, no. Moshe is like Avraham, is arguing with God and saying, no, have compassion for the people. And don't destroy them. And I do not want to have a new lineage. And in fact, destroy me. This is obviously, we didn't read those psukim, but that's what comes next. So Moshe is tested, but he passes the test because Moshe is the one who has compassion. Moshe is the one who loves the people, even though they're failing. And advocates, right? He advocates to God for it. Is just like Avram. Avram was advocating for the people in Sodom and Gomorrah. I see a complete parallel here.
Right, but like you said, at a certain point, Abraham stopped, and the end was that those towns were destroyed. Whereas Moshe, as you say, he took it a step farther. He says, "If you're going to do this, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I'm done. I'm done with this whole thing. Right. Take me out of this book and leave me alone." And that's the ultimate. Why could you?
Yeah.
But just to get back to this idea of kashay eiref, this stubbornness or of the people, that calling the Jewish people stiff-necked, and he says it when he's saying the lashon amira, the swift words.
Yeah.
You know that there's a Gemara that says that calling the Jewish people stiff-necked, there's actually a blessing in that. There's a blessing in that, says the Gemara in Be'ah, pretty sure. It says that without it, okay. So you see they're stubborn in a not good way. Yeah. But if they didn't have this stiff-neckedness quality, this stubbornness, this personality in their DNA, no way to survive.
That's right.
No way to survive. How are the Jewish people surviving what we have survived for millennium? So there's a stubbornness.
Right.
So like, that there's a good side to every personality trait.
Yeah. There's a silver lining in this. So you can see Moses. I mean, Moses was stubborn when God picked Moses to go and take them out of Egypt. God and Moses said, "No, I can't. It's not for me. Send somebody else." So it's not like the people are any different from Moshe. Moshe is just a little more elevated. He's ahead of them. He's ahead of them in terms of his development, you could say, if there's like a timeline. So Moshe was stiff-necked. People are stiff-necked, and everybody is, you could say, growing. Towards hopefully being eventually compassionate like God is. I mean, you're sure it's a hard story. I mean, it's a rough story all around, but there's this sort of like, I'd say, the seeds of compassion and the seeds of
Forgiveness.
Yeah. So that's what I see.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
So we should, with that, we should be blessed. Again, I want to invite those of us who are viewing us at home. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, HebrewLearningCircles.org. Comment, like. But for those of us who are not in the meetup group, if you're watching us at home, may we be blessed with growing compassion. May for all of us, may our stubbornness subside. May it go down the mountain and our compassion come up and rise to the top of our personal mountains. So, folks, for the next couple of weeks, we're actually going to be doing our shiur on Tuesday morning. That's going to be February 22nd. And following week, March 1st, it's going to be Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. But then we'll go back to our regular Wednesday morning. And with that, shalom for now. Ahava